A vegan used a variant of the double effect in order to defend from crop death's criticism. Let's have a listen.
I also wanted to find an argument whose origins weren't in veganism, since I think it helps to highlight the fact that, like many things, non-vegans already share many intuitions and values with vegans. And what I found was something called the doctrine of double effect, a moral principle that's been around for centuries. Essentially, the doctrine of double effect holds that a higher standard of justification is required for actions that intend harm rather than merely foresee it. A common example is the way we'd think about a terror bomber who deliberately kills civilians to invoke fear in their enemy, what we'd call direct harmful agency, versus a strategic bomber who targets a military production facility to destroy its machines of war, knowing that there will be some unintended civilian casualties, what we'd call indirect harmful agency. Now in this video, I'm actually going to talk about a slightly revised version of the DDE, since this more primitive one runs afoul of something called the closeness problem. But if you want to read about that, check out the links in the description. What I'm going to talk about is Warren Quinn's revised DDE, which originated in this 1989 paper. Quinn's revised DDE distinguishes between 3 rather than 2 types of harmful agency, summarized well in the 2019 paper, The Doctrine of Double Effect and Killing Animals for Food. By Quinn's lights, there's indirect harmful agency, and then 2 kinds of direct harmful agency: eliminative direct harmful agency and opportunistic direct harmful agency. So what are those? Well, I think it's easiest to demonstrate that by doing a side-by-side product comparison. All 3 of these products have an agent involving a victim in one or multiple ways, and at least one of those involvements leads to the victim being harmed. Both kinds of direct harmful agency also have the stipulation that the involvement which leads to that harm is intended. The difference is that with the eliminative flavor, the presence of the victim is a difficulty to the agent, and is seen as such by the agent. Whereas with the opportunistic variety, the presence of the victim is, as the name suggests, an opportunity for the agent, and is seen as such. And I know that all sounds complicated, so to make this easier to understand, we're going to get to examples in a second. But first, why is this even important? Well, because, according to Quinn, cases of indirect harmful agency are easier to justify than cases of direct harmful agency. And cases of eliminative direct harmful agency are easier to justify than cases of opportunistic direct harmful agency. In other words, there's a hierarchy of wrongness when comparing types of harmful agency. Now you might be saying, well, no, I don't agree with that. But before we address that, let's explore some of these examples. So in the classic case of carnism, we kill a pig and eat them. Clearly this satisfies A and B. An agent involves a victim and the victim is harmed. Now the involvement of the victim here is also very obviously intended, and so condition C is satisfied, making this a type of harmful direct agency. So of the 3 forms of harmful agency, this is the type we would judge the most harshly. So let's compare that to animals caught in a combine harvester. Again, this clearly satisfies A and B. An agent involves a victim and the victim is harmed. But in this case, the involvement of the victim isn't intentional. Like we said before, the combine driver isn't swerving to hit the local fauna. Not only is that not a benefit, it's likely a detriment to the driver's goals and farm equipment. Thus, condition C isn't satisfied, and we have an instance of indirect harmful agency. And of the 3 forms of harmful agency, this is judged the least harshly.
Alright, let's now use this for the purchase of animal products. It is vague what is meant by involvement, but for the sake of the argument, I will grant A and also B. But the condition C isn't satisfied. People buy animal products with intention to consume them, not with intention for some animal in the future to be exploited. We can also present it in this way. When I buy bacon, I don't harm anyone. Any harm, if it even happens, will happen by someone else in the future. But when a guy drives a combine harvester, he harms animals himself at that very moment. If that guy isn't harming animals with intention, then neither am I. I buy bacon to eat it. The guy drives a combine harvester to harvest crops. If he isn't harming animals intentionally, then neither am I. It's indirect harmful agency and should be judged least harshly. If crop deaths aren't morally an issue for vegans because it's indirect harmful agency, then purchase of animal products shouldn't be either. But that's all under the assumption that I grant both A and B. When I buy bacon, I am not involving any victim in any way. My purchase doesn't necessitate any exploitation. So it's not me who is involving a victim, and I can reject both A and B. Thus, it isn't even indirect harmful agency, and it cannot even be judged. Either purchase of animal products should be judged least harshly, like other unintentional things, or it shouldn't be judged at all.